Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview a bunch of people. I interview founders, thought leaders, co founders, entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, executives, a lot of people around the world in crypto and blockchain. And today I have an amazing guest. Let's get her title right here. She's the Director of Partner Programs at Agoric. Her name is Vanessa Pestr. Vanessa, welcome.
Thank you, Jamel. Really appreciate you having me on the show.
You're very welcome. I'm happy you're here. First question I have for you today is this: what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
I love that question because working at a layer one uh, software company like Agoric, there's no history or background for it, right? And so my background comes from venture capital and the whole tech startup community landscape. I got into tech more so in 2011 and began working with New York Angels, a membership based group for angel investments in New York, where we engaged with the ecosystem and grew membership. Um, Almost doubled my first year and continue to build relationships in order to work with the best and brightest companies in New York. I then went into and launched my own fund, Lattice Ventures, with the co-founder Brittany Lachlan, which did very well. We invested in a few companies over 2 years, in which a third of that portfolio was in crypto. And so we began maneuvering over more so into that space, which we then took separate roles as operators. I continued investing on behalf of an employer. I was working on the spring team at Ripple, where I put together a thesis for um, interoperability and greater adoption of blockchain technology. And I executed on that thesis, making 15 investments on behalf of Ripple, Agoric being one of them. And that went very well across the board. And so, you know, what? Why is this a logical background for what I do now? From the foundation of my time being in tech, it has been regularly driven by ecosystem growth and partnerships for objectives that we set out in New York Angels. Our objective was to increase quality deal flow across the board for our investors, as well as having um, a well-renowned group of members who could bring diverse opinions from their different industry backgrounds. And putting that together was a lot of fun because you had to work with all of the different elements of the local New York startup community ecosystem. My fund, Lattice Ventures, had a network effects thesis. And so we focused on network effects within different industries, and crypto obviously is a natural fit for that. And I did the same with my investments at Ripple. There was a mix of investments for the adoption of blockchain technologies. Agoric was in my smart contracts bucket, but I also had other investments for existing builders in XRP Ledger. And so I invested in a lead developer. I also invested in a newer group who was providing services in the ecosystem, as well as another group, Flare, that was bringing value to the ledger as a whole. And so my belief in building ecosystems is finding ways to um, find long-term alignment with high-performing groups that can then work together to allow the ecosystem to flourish. And so it was proven in the other cases I've just given, and I'm just here doing it again at Agoric.
Excellent. So let's get into what Agoric is all about. What is it all about? What makes it great? What are you focused on?
Agoric is wonderful. It's a layer one in the Cosmos ecosystem. And we are unique as we offer JavaScript smart contracts, which will enable millions of developers to become on-chain developers. We also have a view of interoperability, which is why we're launching via IBC. And the goal has been to provide a way in which people can facilitate business and economic cooperation safely. And the smart contract framework is designed with offer safety in order to enable this type of broad global cooperation. So the two things of why I'm choosing to spend my time here are one, the technology in itself, enabling people to access becoming an on-chain developer, and for people to operate and build in a safe manner. And then this larger focus from the visionary standpoint that Mark Miller, our chief scientist and founder, has given different talks on internally is this ability for there to be this global cooperation. Happy to share more on either of those.
Yeah, I would ask you about it. How do we, we're going to talk about DeFi and we're going to talk about CeFi. So global cooperation has to be something that we understand first, because there's been a lot of infighting this year. Why is global cooperation and conflict resolution together with that important?
So the author safety model is a way that you can have enforcement in code that is immutable for the smart contract. Now, a lot of the design of Agoric is, when I say Agoric, because we use that name a lot, I'm referring to the actual Agoric VM stack that sits on the chain. That is our differentiated technology for an object capability model. And so you can have these different calls and throughout the stack in order to enable the execution of a smart contract, such that if you and I have such as you and I may not know each other and we want to trade assets, there's a very good chance I could cheat you, right? Like, why would I pay you if you've already sent me the goods? So the example we like to give is that when using the smart contracts in the Agoric framework, you're able to deposit your goods and I'm able to deposit my payment. But you and I don't receive those until the smart contract recognizes that those needs are met and then they're released. So this prevents this cheating mechanism that we see sometimes in the world. And one of the things too is that it's feedback we've gotten from some of our developer community is that they've built in Solidity, they've built in Rust, and they've built in now JavaScript smart contracts in Agoric. And they say that one of the greatest benefits is that instead of having to build and design your code to prevent attacks, prevent these security issues, prevent these safety issues, you don't have to worry. You don't have to build for that. You could just build your product. And so Alex at BytePitch, who gave a talk for us at Gateway in Prague, he shared this with the different developers in the room. And it was just so nice to see that he's finding the benefit and sharing with us why he's building here.
Okay, so let's talk about the future of finance, right? What is it? What is the future? Like, I know what the past of finance is. I worked at Prudential and I worked at AIG, so I know what the past of finance is. What's the future of finance?
The future of finance is going to have to change significantly, as we've been seeing even the unraveling over the last few years. Prior to crypto, there was a lot more different robo-advisors, different ways that people wanted to enable independent retail investors to trade. There's Robinhood. There's also these different companies that did shares of stocks, like different ways to divvy them up. And so I think what's special about blockchain is that it's going to enable people to have better ownership of these assets and also to creatively enable a way for these newer efforts in Web 2 that we saw being executed without middlemen or middle women. And then they'll be able to not have to deal with any of the risks that are associated with that. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of risks in crypto as well, and that needs to be resolved in order to reach the true future of finance we want to see. But the world is much bigger than it was 50 years ago. There's a lot more people. There's this big unrest going on with people's wages against cost of living. And so I think that like as we continue to see this continue as a planet and as an economy, these new tools for the future of finance, enabling people to have better ownership, hopefully paying less fees, and these safety mechanisms will enable them to have a growth in wealth that people should be able to access.
They should. It's interesting because we learned this year that putting your money on a centralized exchange was probably the most riskiest thing you could do. You know, so how do you fix where you think you said there are risks? How do we start to begin to alleviate those risks?
A big saying in crypto is do your research, do your own research. This is true. But in order to really touch the broader person, right, the people that are outside of this crypto universe that you and I spend time in, there's going to have to be some level of safety in which where they can conduct their business. Would you mind asking your question again, please?
Sorry. Oh, the safety part. I agree with you. What does that look like? Like, how do you make it safe? And I agree with you. It has to be safe.
Yeah, we're figuring that out. So our offer safety contracts are one thing, and the more people that we speak with that are in finance or insurance, they get very excited about it. I had somebody once tell me that offer safety is what changed equities in the 70s. I was just like, that's fascinating. So what does it look like in Web3?
So do you think I want to ask you about DeFi summer, but I want to ask you about bringing the safety into it. Do we need to see safety occur first before we see the next DeFi summer? Or what will that DeFi summer look like in next time it happens?
Yeah, I hope there's going to be an evolution in DeFi in order for it to be truly a 2.0. DeFi Summer 1 was huge boom for crypto, but a lot of it was, to what end? To what end are we seeing these new protocols with these governance tokens and yield farming? And for some people, it was game changing because they were early, and for others, um, I've heard so many people say like, "Oh, I lost $600, lost $1,000 just trying to execute a trade, let alone forget losing whatever funds they may have lost." And so 2.0, I think I'd like to see more experiments with financial products that are able to uh, integrate into more real world use cases. So we have this proof of example of being able to manage transactions and like do these bigger, cooler things in finance. The DeFi, the yield farming, cool, it's great. What if we applied it to existing markets that could then come on chain? Are they able to be supported at the right speed? Are they able to be supported in a way that it's innovative for the existing businesses? And so we've met with a couple of projects that are looking at that with potential partnerships of bringing real world assets on chain for a lending protocol. And that's exciting because they're able to build out the software for this group. And if we're able to see something like that, then that would be another proof of progress and milestone for the industry as a whole.
I struggle. I've been in crypto 5.5 years, right? I have a master's degree in finance when I learned all about capital budgeting. And I learned that the stock companies, what they've been doing in the past decade is, buybacks and layoffs, which increases the price, but they don't do capital budgeting anymore. So when I look at crypto, I look at, crypto is the real world. So I really struggle with calling crypto not the real world. So what do you, how do you bridge the gap between the old world, what it used to be, and what we're building today, and build the future from what we're building today?
So real world assets is what I was getting at for things that are already traded um, in bulk. And I'm not trying to go on the route of like tagging things or anything else, but things that are like held in custody. And so that's some of the use cases that some people have brought forth around um, gold and other options that they have. Like there's a market for it, and they want to see how they could reproduce that lending market um, in a smart contract app. And I'm just like, okay, please tell us more, let us know what you're thinking. And these are just like early conversations, but it's nice people coming to us with these use cases. So that's what I meant, is just sort of like transitioning existing trading markets on chain. And what would that look like? Real world, I would actually want to expand it to more of everyday people, but that wasn't my intention with that original comment.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that goes like I think it goes back to my question about, I've been in crypto for 5.5 years, and you've been in the VC world, for a while. And so I wanted to find out, what the role of the crypto VC is in today's bear market. How do you see things have changed with the VC and where we stand today?
Yeah, of course. So bear markets are about building 100% because the bull run gets very frothy, it gets very crowded and interesting. Anything could get funded. Not really, but it feels that way. Bear markets are wonderful because you can identify the parties, the builders that believe in the technology, that have the conviction. They're willing to dedicate their time because they believe in the bigger opportunity here for the long-term innovation aspects. And so back when I was at Spring at Ripple, it was a bear market as well. And I loved it because I could just meet such great quality projects. And so I think VCs have a very good opportunity to um, discern, review, and identify the longer term value projects. I do feel that there might be a bit of, some pain right now for some of the bull run investments they may have made. I mean, how could they not? Um, but this has to go back to, what was their thesis or intention for making those investments in the first place? How did that suit the vision for a longer term growth? How did that suit the vision for for these founders that truly wanted to build a larger business versus, this sounds awesome, let me just do this, and I'm not saying everyone's like that, but there's a lot of those distractions in a bull run. So the opportunity for VCs is clear. This is the time to build. It's a great time to identify founders who are here for the longer term and how to see how they could fit in the larger ecosystem of their portfolio or future investments, because that's what's part of my background, is the ecosystem building for portfolios, and then even more so in a crypto network. So they have some early playing cards and bets that they might have in place, and then seeing what those opportunities are and what they have conviction in their thesis for the next 5 years, 10 years, is what they have the opportunity and time now to determine.
And how does the bear market help, I guess, bootstrappers with an advantage?
I think that there's a couple of things that come to mind. What bootstrappers have as an advantage is, one, if there's fewer people making noise in a lot of our crypto communities, they might be able to get to the right people faster to help them, either unblock them with time, knowledge, possibly funds. And I think that's just a great advantage. One of our DApp launch partners is an independent developer in the US, and we met him via our bounty program. So we're early with building our developer community, and so we've have these public bounties that we post on Gitcoin. And what's really special is that we're able to meet and get to know our community via these independent developers who can come build something, add value by creating an open source smart contract, or an open source component, as we call it. And then as he's doing this, he's realized that he has an opportunity to build a DApp for a greater business that can service assets over IBC and the interchain at large. So that in itself is a great example. Now he can be able to prop himself up and set himself up when there's another boom. And the same goes for our other partners as well. So that's just one example, but I think that's one of the key advantages, because due to there being less noise, their voices can be heard.
Yeah, I see that. Um, I I started trading in 2018 after my couple heart attacks, and I turned $10 into half million before the bull started. And once the bull arrived, everybody made all kinds of money, and what I did was like, okay, I'm no longer a very good trader. So now it's now it's a bear market, and I'm like, okay, let me rebuild again, do the same thing. We'll see what happens. So I want to talk about the role of, I want to switch up gears a little bit and talk about the role of gender diversity in tech, right? What is that role of gender diversity in tech and in crypto? And how is the role in the greater tech space greater than what it is in crypto, if it is?
All right. Loaded but essential question. Gender diversity. Um, I it's it's just so important to have inclusion of different points of view. If you're building a new world, if you're going to Mars, you're building this new innovative landscape for how people interact. Having um, a diverse set of experiences who are highly qualified and experts in their own right coming together is what makes this great. I've seen it proven time and again throughout different points in my career, as well as different points in my personal life. And it's just so obvious. I hope that it is obvious to other folks. But it is challenging. There will be crypto events where there are far more men than women. And depending on the culture of the protocols and such, I mean, a lot of the protocols, a lot of the groups do a very good job putting together codes of conduct so that people of all genders can be very comfortable attending these events. And it's been proven, right? I've been to several events that have some of the after parties, and the respect and safety that I feel in attending those events is wonderful. So I think continuing that is important in order to uh, see some growth and diversity in that space. The other is being able to share stories, being able to be proof that it's okay to come to the other side, come build in crypto. Like I'm doing it, and so is she. There's three of us. No, there's a lot more, but sometimes it feels that way in a room at an event. In fact, at one recent event, it was after it was during a conference, and it was at a panel discussion, and there were a bunch of people there in the beginning. And then after part of the panel was starting to wind down a bit, some people cleared out, and I was there with a friend, and we were chatting, and then all of a sudden, I had this feeling, and I looked around, I looked to my right, to my left, I looked behind me, I was like, oh, okay, there's a woman, it's the bartender. But then I was just like, oh, they all left. There was like 50 people in the room, and they were all men. There wasn't a single woman left in the room. And I laughed, and I thought, well, it's good that I've gotten comfortable, but this got to get better.
Yeah, there's a lot of narratives out there that need to focus on different gender groups, need to focus on, different ages, or need to focus on a man or a woman for hiring. And what I haven't heard during those narratives over the past few years is we just need more skilled people, right? So how can people get over those narratives and become a skilled person in something they enjoy, and why and how is crypto beneficial and help promote that?
Yeah, very good. So I was thinking back on your question of how the role of gender diversity is in tech space different from crypto sector. So as you can imagine, there's a demand for talent in crypto, right? There's growth and funding. There's two things early companies always need: it's people and money, right? So if they get the money, they need the people, and the need for more skilled professionals across the board, from engineering, design, business development, marketing, communications, security. I mean, across the board, you need talent. So that's generally as you mentioned, the message that goes out. It's like we just need more talent coming into the sector. Uh, but enabling the diversity aspect is giving people that sense in career change right? Going from one end of the spectrum to a new industry entirely is a risk. And so there are many people that don't feel comfortable with that risk. So, um, one of the things that sometimes I do when I'm trying to bring people over to the team at Agoric is I try to meet with them earlier on. I've actively recruited my team as well as other team members at Agoric, where I um, not only talk about the work that we're doing, but what it's like to work here and the incredible support and benefits and the culture driven by the executive team and how it plays out through many of us here. So I think that in order to focus that as well is to be able to create these workspaces that enable people to know that they could come over and that there's this larger opportunity, but also this like professional safety so that they can operate and do their best. So if you're a diverse person listening to this podcast, if you're a gender diverse person, by all means, a lot of the skilled labor demand here, you probably have the talent to do it. But why don't you also step in and set up a wallet, show some interest in crypto, because that will set you apart for interviews. That's one thing that we've heard across from friends at other groups and protocols where they just say, I hired, these people that have crypto experience and these people that have none and people that just had passion. And it's just even a little bit of knowledge in crypto goes a very long way uh, in order to have somebody really transition to the role. And yeah, so those are my 3 cents on the topic.
More than 3 cents, but I thank you very much for that. Um, so I really enjoyed speaking with you today. I enjoyed talking to you. It's been a great conversation. And I have one final question, and it's how can people find out more information about you, about Agoric, about what you do, about what your company does? How can they do that?
Absolutely. Agoric.com is our website and plenty of information there. We also have agoric.com/Discord if you want to join our community in Discord. For me personally, I'm on Twitter. So it's Vanessa Dice. If you speak Spanish, it's Vanessa Dice. It goes both ways, which is what makes it a lot of fun. My DMs are open. Get a lot of scams, so please send a non-scammy note. I'm also on LinkedIn. If you would like to send a connection, you can mention this podcast and why you'd like to connect, and I'll accept it under those terms. We have a lot going on at Agoric. A stable token launched in our network at the end of last year, interstable token, and there will be a release in the next couple of months, which will enable this interstable token to be backed by crypto over collateralized vaults, of course. And so you'll be seeing those that release in the next couple of months. That stable token's already been well adopted across the interchain, so you can see it in Osmosis and Crescent. These are other zones in the Cosmos ecosystem, and the interstable token IST will continue to flourish. So we have a lot going on at Agoric. Please join the conversation on Discord, and if not, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Jamil. It was a pleasure, and thank you for